I don't personally think drastic changes come August like there will be in the rest of the country.
Right.
Yeah.
By the time you eliminate all those, your global household obligation can stay about the same. Happens all the time.
Everyone feels like they could only make offers above list price.
You just waited for competition to come in.
Yeah.
When, if you would have stepped in before there was a price drop, you could have just made a lower offer.
I think this has been a problem with the market we've had for the past few years. It's been so hot. It's just exciting to get to work with those people.
Today, I'm honored to chat with the president-elect of the Seattle King County Realtors and somebody who happens to be my good buddy, Mr. Garrett Nelson. Garrett, thanks so much for being here.
Thanks for having me.
So right out of the gate, let's handle something that I think bothers a lot of folks. Is it realtor or realtor?
Realtor.
Realtor.
There's no extra A in the middle.
I can't tell you how often I hear this. Does it bother you as well?
When I see it on TV.
When you see it on TV?
Yeah.
Otherwise, if you just hear clients talk about it, it's not a big deal.
No.
Okay, that's
But
good.
when I hear realtors say it, realtor, and I'm like on Instagram or whatever, like, no, let's say it right. So.
Well, congratulations, man. What has the process
Thank
been
you.
like?
Good question. I mean, it's been years of volunteer work with the Realtors Association down in Seattle King County.
Yeah.
And then, I don't want to say work my way up, but yeah, there's the various positions along the way to be able to be eligible to run for president of the association. And then last year, I ran for, you have to run for president-elect.
Sure.
Spend the whole year as president-elect, and then you're the only candidate for president, effectively.
Right.
You don't automatically become it, but you kind of do.
In sort of a way. You just kind of move over one seat.
Yeah, exactly. You move over pretty much one seat. You spend pretty much a year learning the ropes. One of the first big things you do in your president-elect year is help run the nominations and the election for the board members for the year you will be president. So we just finished that the end of July or at the end of June. And then the next big thing we're going to do is business planning and strategic planning for the year that, every person who's president-elect does the strategic planning for the year that they'll be president of the association.
I see. Okay.
So that's the next big project, which will probably start in a month.
That's cool. So it just adds stability, like a bunch of stability to the process.
Yeah. So you don't just, January 1, you don't just show up and you're like, oh, I'm president now.
Right.
You've had a year of planning and preparation to get you to that point.
Yeah. That's a really good way of doing it. I wish more organizations would do that because I think it would introduce more stability to organizations like the Seattle King County Realtors.
Yeah, and we've been doing it that way, for a long time, even well
Right.
before I was involved. I know that's pretty much been the process.
Yeah.
And I definitely think it helps, have stability, continuity, make sure people are prepared in their positions before taking them on.
Yeah. You chose quite a year to want to be in this position. There's a lot of changes in real estate going on at the moment.
Yeah, I didn't plan on it. When I ran for this position, I wasn't planning on all these changes happening. But
You didn't go, okay, let's go to the year we're going to have a $418 million lawsuit, and that's the year I want to oversee this
yeah.
group.
The lawsuit's been going on for a few years,
That is true.
but that wasn't in my thought process when I was running for
Sure.
the position.
Yeah. What a gift you have. Now you get to go in and deal with all of these new ramifications or not. They
Yeah.
get to come in because of what I think is good overall in terms of transparency. Although I think what's unique about this is that in Washington State, we're not going to be as affected by the national settlement.
No, not as far as I understand it. Not too much. We've done a lot of the work ahead of time.
Yeah.
So most of the things coming out of the settlement were started either beginning of this year or even a few years ago. So we've been kind of ahead of the curve anyways.
Right.
So yeah, there won't be, I don't personally think drastic changes come August like there will be in the rest of the country. Or large parts of the rest of the country.
Yeah, what's interesting, and I'll back up for a second. So what we're talking about is the National Association of Realtors was party in a lawsuit where there was really an attempt at additional transparency around buyers, brokers' compensation, right? And so that affected a large part of the country and the way that their contracts are written and how representation works and all of that. What's unique about where we sit is that our local Northwest MLS has been very progressive over the last few years, so there might not even be that many changes that come into effect for us.
No, I don't think so. There'll be a few changes. They just announced the other day some more changes to the form that are going to happen in August.
Sure.
But nothing,
Yeah.
I don't think drastic changes that we haven't already been operating under so far this year.
Right.
A few updates and changes, but as of January 1, we've been working with buyer brokerage services agreements anyways. Listing forms were changed at the same time. So we've been at it for 7 months now?
Yeah.
So, it's just a few updates. And I imagine, this process will probably be updating for a few years anyways. And the local MLS has always been good about updating our forms anyways to kind of reflect changes in the industry.
Absolutely. I mean, what's cool about Washington State, and I'm licensed in 48 states, so I get the privilege of seeing a lot of different sales contracts, right? And I will say there's a lot of variation in these different contracts. Boy, I could call out some states for maybe a lack of transparency for sure. So I see where a lot of this is necessary. But what's cool about our local Northwest MLS is that they've been pretty progressive in this. They've been really putting a lot of this in place for over 5 years, really.
We've been the leaders nationally, I think, on this topic.
Yeah. What's interesting is that this conversation is really not introducing new regulations to the state of Washington. But what it is doing is creating a bunch of headlines. Yeah. So my question for you is, as you're out there serving and speaking with clients, are you finding that their perception of buyer-broker compensation or agent compensation in general is changing?
I think, with some of my listings this year, they still think, it makes sense to be compensating a buyer's agent.
Sure.
I explained you don't have to. Mm-hmm. You've never technically had to.
Right, it's always been negotiable, right?
It's always been negotiable, but I think I believe in the market.
Sure.
Market sets the price of homes. Mm-hmm. Market sets the price of all sorts of things.
Sure.
And, for my sellers, I've just kind of showed them this is a competition that you're up against, not just on price of home, compensation, quality of home, right. Condition. So it's just another item that you just have to compare when looking at your competition, I think.
Right. Right. So if a home currently, and we're still allowed to do this, in Washington State with the Northwest MLS, but if a home that you're marketing has 2% buyer's agent commission and another one has 2.5% buyer's agent commission, that's something to take into account, right?
I think so, yeah. And so I'll show, I just open up the MLS and show my clients what would be the competing listings and the ones that have sold and gone pending in their area.
Yeah.
And I think this is what it is.
Absolutely. I think that, I'm always a fan of transparency. I think transparency for a consumer is fantastic, right? And I tend to agree with the Northwest MLS's position that having it available to everybody kind of keeps side deals from happening, right? It makes it so that it's just transparent for everybody. Anybody who has a login to a website can just find out what that looks like. Mm-hmm. And apparently that seems to be the prevailing wisdom at the moment. And I won't let you go and put words in anybody else's mouth, but in your opinion, do you think that makes it more transparent for buyers? Pardon the interruption, but I wanted to share something with you. This video is sponsored by the Neo Experience app, and it's our way to help people no matter where they are in their homeownership journey. So whether you already have a home and you're looking to make a move, or whether you're just trying to get on the housing ladder, this app is going to give you a ton of tools to help you reach your housing goals. Now, to access it, you can visit www.homeownersuccessapp.com and sign up there completely free, or you can just check out the link in the description. If you're on your phone already, you can also visit the App Store and download the Neo Experience app, and then just use the activation code Humphrey to make it completely free for you. Thanks so much for watching. Now, back to the video.
To see compensation amounts and I think it does, yeah. I mean, because now with the changes that we have locally to our forms, so the buyers are pretty, in theory, responsible for compensating the buyer's agents.
Mm-hmm. Right.
There's the option that money for our compensation as buyer's agents comes from the seller who's offering compensation.
Right.
But it's, I think, important for them to, if we're now in this world where we're discussing compensation more and where it comes from and who's responsible for it, then it is important for buyers to see, that has to go into their decision process.
Right.
What listings are offering compensation, what ones aren't.
Yeah.
That's all part of the buying process now, I think.
Tangential to that, do you think there's other real estate changes that are kind of upcoming or getting more publicity that buyers should know about?
There's always things changing in the industry. So I started in 2009.
Right.
So it's probably like the worst time to start in the business. So like I started basically with short sales and bankruptcy, or not, short sales, bankruptcies, foreclosures. The only time I think I've ever seen like a quote unquote normal market was maybe for like a month or two in 2013. Maybe like that's probably it.
Right.
So I've seen it change so much over time. You just kind of roll with it and just have to accept what's going on. I mean, it's not necessarily like the market too, but it's in like what becomes like standard practice. I hate using the word standard, but like,
sure.
We're
universally accepted.
Everyone's stop using this addendum for something. Like, why are we? Everyone's decided that we're not using this addendum for our offers now. That's not cool to me. Or these things seem to change every month. All of a sudden, it's a new trend. I guess trend is what I would say in the industry, and then that'll change again in a few months after that. So.
It's kind of the life of being in this industry, right? There's just constant change.
There's constant change. I don't know if I could predict something that's going to come out in like 5 months. There's probably people smarter than me who are going to say this is my prediction for 5 months from now. I don't know what that is. Yeah. I think I can maybe look ahead 2 weeks.
And just see where things are going.
I can use the data from the past 2 to 4 weeks and maybe kind of see where things are going to be 2 to 3 weeks from now. That's about as far as I think I can look.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. What? So you mentioned you've been at this since 2009, right? And there's always changes that are happening. So you've got a bunch of transactions under your belt. So what are some things that you wish buyers knew about the current market conditions? Because you've seen them all at this point. Like you've seen, markets going gangbusters. You've seen markets get really lean. What's important for buyers to understand now?
I think probably one of the most important things to understand is that all the headlines they're reading and articles they're reading are either national or maybe like at a county level. That's usually how the data seems to be parsed out. Most people don't go down to like the neighborhood or rarely do you get city specific.
Right.
I think even more rarely do you get neighborhood specific. So I think that's one of the most important reasons to work with a real estate professional is because they'll look down at that level to see what the market's like. I mean, I've had listings that the exact same home a half a mile away would have sold $100,000 more and a month quicker just because of like school district or something like that, or some feature or characteristic. So I think most important thing for buyers right now is to don't want to say don't pay attention to the headlines, but keep in mind that those are broad strokes, big areas.
Right.
If you're looking in a specific spot, you need specific information.
Right. And in reference to headlines, I think that one of the really notable things to understand is that you might be reading headlines that don't apply to you at all, right? Because we have a very specific market here, which, for better or for worse, right? If you're not asking questions, you might be jumping the gun on making some decisions. So if you have questions, reach out. This is what we do. We want to be resourceful that way.
Yeah.
How often do you get people who come to you with preconceived notions that really just think they've done their homework, but maybe that homework is in vain? I
think all the time. Pretty much, I would say probably most clients. Some, I definitely feel like on the seller side, people who haven't, a lot of times this is their first time selling a home. So they're like, I think I know what's going on, but I haven't really been involved in real estate in 20 years. So what's happening?
Sure.
Like, okay, well that's, they usually have an open mind and want to know what the current environment is and like what the current trends are. Sure. The question again, I'm trying to just think of
people who have come to you with preconceived notions.
Yeah. I think just a lot of the preconceived notions end up coming from the what they're reading, what their friends are telling them. I do think it's kind of funny that friends all like to talk about the real estate they're doing.
Yeah.
and then now they're all competing against each other for kind of like the same things. I don't want to say it's entertaining to me because that's rude, but like it's
I mean, to a certain extent, like I'm here for my entertainment too. It's kind of fun to watch.
Yeah. I mean, I just think a lot of people's preconceived notions come from the media they're consuming, the friends they're talking to, and not like practical on the ground experience.
Right.
Again, the data that they're looking at is usually a lot higher level than is going to apply to them specifically. Right. It's usually from a month ago.
It's interesting you say that because when we hear about rates moving, right, in a headline, it's typically at least a week old, right?
Yeah.
Rates move like pretty quick in the mortgage industry, hourly.
Yeah.
I had a situation today where I was watching an interest rate for a client and it moved. And okay, here we go. We'll take the move. Works for me.
Yeah.
But that happens that fast. It's not a headline.
Yeah.
So it's an interesting thing that way.
I mean, you can almost write the headlines for a year based on the graph of data from like the previous year and knowing the market cycles throughout the year. You can just say, oh my gosh, in May, prices of homes went up X percent over, January, February, March.
You think it's that predictable?
Yeah.
Yeah?
If you look at the data, we have a tool in the MLS called InfoSparks, right?
Okay, yeah.
And you can look at sales prices month over month for years. And the prices will probably be higher than, potentially higher than they were the year before.
Okay.
But they almost follow like a step ladder.
Just a trend line.
Yeah, trend line. And then usually in the fall they come down a little bit.
Yep.
Right before winter, and then January, February, right after Super Bowl, everything starts to tick up.
Yep.
You get the summer break.
Yep.
Oh, it slows down. But it's pretty consistent.
Yeah, we see something similar to that in mortgage. When you look at the number of transactions, there's this interesting dead period that happens in the summer, like from the middle of June to the end of June.
Yeah.
Everybody just is preoccupied with the rest of life, right?
Yeah.
Either graduation or Father's Day or the beginning of vacations or what have you.
Yeah.
So, I don't disagree with you. I think that you probably could just draw a big trend line for the year and write your headlines accordingly.
Yeah.
Because we have the reps. We've seen it happen enough times, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So, what are some of your other pet peeves that you have when working with clients? Because this is always an interesting topic for me.
I would just like clients to. I don't want it to be a pet peeve, like be rude about it, but like.
Then let's reframe it as like, what do you wish that people should know? Because we have similar interactions with people at different points in the buying process over and over again, right?
I think.
So, what are things you wish they knew?
I wish clients knew that the newest properties on the market aren't always the best ones for them. I wish that they would, if a house has been on the market for a period of time, it sounds crazy to say longer than a week.
Sure.
But in this market, a week is kind of a long time. Most homes are probably pending within that time period.
Yeah.
I wish they knew that there's good opportunities in homes that have been on the market like 10 plus days.
Sure.
I think there's a lot of like gems that could be found there. Maybe they're priced too high. Maybe they're a little bit rough and need some work done to them. But, if you're looking for a home that's a project home, why would you spend your time looking at new homes? Let's look at homes that have been on the market for a little while.
Right. Because there could be nothing wrong with them. They could just have come on the market just a little bit high. And that could be like the client's influence too, right?
Yeah.
It could have nothing to do with the agent.
Exactly.
Somebody sees their neighbor sell 2 years ago for a certain price and they think they can get it now.
Make sure that you come to your agent. Don't feel like you're wasting your agent's time.
Oh, that's a great point.
If you have questions or anything, like we're here to help.
Right.
It's my job to help my buyer and seller clients.
Isn't that funny?
And sellers are real good about reaching out to you if they have feedback.
So good. So the frequency of sellers you would say is higher than buyers sometimes?
I think potentially, yeah. I think buyers are also spending a lot of time. There's so many resources out there available to them. They're going on all these different websites looking at homes, and they're not always the same homes that they tell you they're looking for.
Oh, interesting.
So I think one is like tell your agent what you're looking for, or share the homes that you're looking at to your agent, so that they have a better idea of what it is that you're actually looking for. I try to keep when I'm searching for listings for clients broader than their specific terms, just in case there's something that falls into, the search that I wouldn't have otherwise caught.
They could fall in love with something that's outside of what they described to you.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Does that happen often?
Sometimes, yeah.
Yeah. If it happens ever, then it's worth doing, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Sure.
I mean, so if they're like, oh, I need this square footage in this price range, I'm like, okay, we're going to go down in square footage, we're going to go up in square footage. We're going to go a little bit higher in price or whatever it is, just to find,
right.
try to capture as many possibilities as there are.
Right. You probably have to now with the limited inventory.
I mean, yeah, because the inventory is so limited, but I still get clients who, will send me something and they're like, that's nothing like what we've discussed looking for. Okay, so that's good to know. Maybe I need to change my search criteria for them.
Yeah.
Maybe it's a one-off, though.
Sure.
That happens, too.
Yeah.
And I also think just don't... A trend among clients, especially buyer clients, is they're watching listings.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. And I've had this discussion with many, many people.
Okay.
Either like on a listing of mine, I'm doing an open house and we just did a price drop. They're like, oh, yeah, I've saw this one. It's been I've been watching it for a few weeks now. I'm like, okay.
Why didn't we talk about it a few weeks ago?
Why didn't we come in last week? And then buyers will do it too, where all of a sudden they'll send you a listing that, I've been watching this one. Like, well, I wish I had known about that one. I, could have been researching it, making connections with the listing agent, doing all those things to find out about it for you.
Right.
Because then those homes will usually get like a price drop, and then now everyone is interested in it. Right. So,
You just waited for competition to come in. If you would have stepped in before there was a price drop, you could have just made a lower offer.
You could have what I
asked for a concession.
I think this has been a problem with the market we've had for the past few years. It's been so hot, right?
Yep.
Everyone feels like they can only make offers above list price. There's a lot of cases where that's the only option, right? If it's the hot home in the hot neighborhood, yes, that's probably
offer review dates. That's what's happening.
That's probably going to be what's happening, right? But there are cases out there where you can make an offer on a home below list price instead of waiting for it to come down to the price that you would buy it for. Try to buy it at that price before they make the move down.
Right, especially if you've seen it sit for 2 or 3 weeks, right? At least in this area.
If you go and look at the data, most homes sell for 100% or maybe like 98% of list price. But that's the last list price, not necessarily the first list price.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
So when I'm looking at like comps for clients, that's one thing I like to do. So I'll do a one-line CMA in MLS.
Here's comparative market analysis.
Comparative market analysis. Here's all the comps that are there.
Right.
And then I like to do it where I can put it in a format where I can see percentage, on the sold, you can see percentage sold price as a percentage of the list price.
Right.
And then of original list price.
Oh, interesting.
And it's always really close to 100% of the last list price.
So whatever it was moved to is usually where the offer comes in.
Yeah.
And that could be a number of factors, right? That could be, that could be very client-driven. Yeah. A lot of times, at least in my experience in chatting with a lot of listing agents, sometimes the client has different expectations, right? Yeah. They always think their home is worth more.
Yeah.
Very rarely do I think you get a seller who thinks their home is worth less.
Yeah.
Have you kind of found the same to be true?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, all right. So you're always talking people into at least a little bit more of a reality. What else do you wish buyers understood about the process? Because I got a softball for you. I'll give you one.
Yeah, give it to me.
All right, you ready? I think that there's a misperception around agents who get whatever the full percentage is of the buyer compensation, right? Yeah. And they miss the whole boat on that. Do you find the same thing? They think that if you just show a house once, like here's your percentage and here's your full percentage of whatever is offered?
Yeah, that's definitely not how it works.
But do people think that?
They do all the time. They think, oh, you get this really big number. I'm like, well, that's not accurate.
How many ways is that number getting divided?
Usually with your office.
Okay. So whoever your brokerage is, you're assigned to.
Your brokerage.
Right.
And then there's all sorts of taxes and fees that have to come out of that.
Right. You're self-employed, so you're paying your own taxes.
Then you're paying your own taxes. You're paying all of your own. Usually you're paying all of your own medical bills and insurance and everything like that.
Right.
A lot of your own expenses. So
a
lot of things that most people's employers take care of don't get taken care of for us.
Right.
And it's not to be like, pity us or whatever. We chose this work, so this is how it is.
Right.
In most situations,
Yeah.
that big dollar amount people see gets eaten up real quick.
Right. And then you have regular life to pay for. If you got a family, if you got insurance, it's
all everything else day to day that you have to pay for. So, yes, that looks like big numbers on a settlement sheet.
Yep.
And they are big numbers. I don't want to minimize that, but they get eaten up real quick.
Right.
There is a cost to doing this business. There's different continuing education we have to do, licenses we have to renew, just business expenses, right? If brokerages have to maintain an office and they have to maintain insurance policies and staff, all sorts of things like that. There's a cost to doing this business that most people don't take into consideration, I think, when looking at these numbers on paper.
Sure, they just see $20,000 on a settlement statement and assume that that's your gravy train, right?
Yeah.
They don't take into account like their website, the marketing, cell phone service, lock boxes, all these things, transaction coordinators, other people in the process that really make a buyer's life easier along the way. That they have to get paid for somewhere.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's really easy for buyers to miss that. And it's interesting, as we review settlement statements with clients, like that comes up quite a bit. That's how much that person made. Well, you got to understand. So we see a lot of education happening on our end around what agents do as well, which is, it's been fascinating. And
we could do a better, I think, job of educating people up front. Like, okay, this is the number, but it only manifests if you close a deal.
Right. Yep.
So that's one. If we were to do things hourly, I think it would cost a lot more. So,
absolutely.
If we were to bill like attorneys, I think things would be a lot slower and cost a lot more.
Sure. Yep. And there'd be a reluctance for people to reach out needing assistance, right?
Exactly.
Because they know there's an hourly fee attached with it.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, when you're taking calls at 9:00 at night, there's a, how am I trying to put this? Not an advantage, but not the luxury of it.
There's a convenience factor.
That you can reach out to your agent pretty much at any time, and will probably pick up or respond to your call or email relatively quickly.
Right.
More of a convenience than trying to get a hold of an attorney to do the job. I've had attorneys like draft things or whatever, and it's not always the most convenient way of doing things.
Yep.
So.
Yep. I think there's a major opportunity for agents right now to really get proficient at conveying their value. And I think historically maybe that's where some of the animosity comes in, is they feel like there's just glorified door openers who get paid a whole lot of money, and that's really not the case. But I think that there's a big opportunity for people to get really, really clear about what they offer and what they do. And it would be, at least on our side, it'd be fun to see people get a lot better at that.
Yeah.
Because I think it properly articulates what you bring to the table.
Yeah. I think opening the door is that seems to be everyone's perception, is all you do is open doors. That's it's probably the easiest part of my job, unless the lock sucks and you hide it. But that's like the base level.
Yeah.
I look at the rest of the work as, especially when you're in contract, kind of project management, coordinating all the different aspects, making sure things happen when they're supposed to, providing references for different, inspectors or handymen or and using your knowledge and the years of experience to help guide the transaction and, manage crazy things that pop up. Because, things pop up all the time in a transaction that you have to deal with, and someone has to be the one that manages it.
Yeah.
Most clients have a full-time job. Yeah. So you're going to deal with random curveball that comes to you during your full-time job, or, do you want the agent to manage it and then bring to you the three options to how to solve the problem.
Right. Or even just seeing around corners things that might be potentially a problem, right?
Yeah.
Like recognizing, ooh, this is a shared well. It's going to present a problem when you get to, the closing part of the transaction. So there's a ton of value in having somebody who's experienced.
Yeah. So that's where, a lot of my experience, there's agents who are definitely experienced in different parts of the
Sure.
transaction and different things, and some are better than others. Just have more knowledge in areas than others. I like when I'm out showing homes to point out the potential issues that might be with a home. So there's certain things like the home was built in the 1990s you have to be aware of. Like, okay,
Right.
this sounds crazy to me, but the 90s were 30 years ago.
Right? Yeah.
Like, time for a new roof. If it doesn't have a new roof now,
Yep. You're going to get one.
I feel like the 90s were 10 years ago.
Yep.
But it's
Agreed.
time, it's time for a new roof, maybe furnace and hot water tank that they haven't been done.
Yeah.
We should probably be on hot water tank 3 by now.
Sure.
Those are the kind of things that I don't expect a buyer to know because they're not in this every day, right?
Right.
Especially a first-time homeowner, you don't necessarily, you've never owned a home before. Why would you know about these things?
Right.
I've been into, I don't know, hundreds, thousands of homes, been seeing hundreds of home inspection reports, worked on my own homes, worked on other people's homes. Again, I'm not a contractor or an inspector, but I'm
Sure.
fairly familiar with kind of how some of this stuff goes together. And it's just, you accumulate this knowledge over time and you're able to share it with people
Yeah.
to help them make decisions.
Yeah. No, you're exactly right. Quickly, let's talk about move-up buyers, because I think that one of the contingents that's completely stuck at the moment is folks who are, they purchased a few years ago, right? They have a really low interest rate, and so they're home locked, right?
Yeah.
And I think maybe what they haven't explored yet is the possibility of clearing off debt in the middle of a transaction to get to another home and not using all of their equity. But there's a ton of equity. I mean,
Yeah.
they have absolute options.
I've had move-up buyers who had a really good rate, but they were just like, okay, family's expanding, they want to be in a better school district, whatever it is, they want more property,
Right.
so they're willing to take the equity from the home. They bought it 5+ years ago. We've been very fortunate around here to have very good equity growth in those 5 years. And they're like, okay, now it's time to move on to the next one. Yeah, my interest rate's going to be higher.
Yep.
Maybe my payment's going to be a bit higher. But yeah, if they're like able to consolidate other debts or kind of get rid of those other debts
Sure.
and still have a higher, yes, it's a higher mortgage payment, but the other debts are gone, which is great.
Yeah, we refer to that as global household debt, right? You might have a great interest rate, but you've got credit cards at 25 to 30% and probably car loans. Maybe a home equity line. By
Yeah.
the time you eliminate all those, your global household obligation can stay about the same. Happens all the time.
Yeah, and
But-
you're able to get I've noticed it was like, this was my first home,
Sure.
the buyer's first home, and now it's like I want the home, right?
Right.
It's probably the one they're going to be in 20+ years
Right.
until they're ready to maybe retire or downsize again, right? So they're willing to take on that higher
Yeah.
interest payment.
Yeah.
Maybe it's a higher mortgage payment, but it's the right home, like
Yep.
the dream property.
Absolutely. And it gives them the extra bedroom or bathroom that they need, and it serves their family's needs and will for a while. Yeah. The best thing they can do is just ask questions and get curious about finding out what those options are, rather than just making a decision based on the number that's on their mortgage statement.
Yeah. I mean, I just look at it as like we're here as resources for clients.
100%.
Have I told clients it's maybe not the best time to buy a house, or maybe
Sure.
not the best? Does this property meet your goals? No, it doesn't. Well, why are
Sure.
maybe don't buy it.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's if I wanted to just sell,
Yes.
it would be much easier.
It's one of the things I love about you is you're not here just to go and try to create a transaction. I really appreciate that about you. And I think that maybe that's not the case for everybody.
Yeah.
And hopefully, as the industry has kind of consolidated and it's a little bit tougher than it was a few years ago, hopefully some of the folks that were in it for the wrong reasons have kind of filtered out.
Yeah.
At least we'd like to hope.
I would hope so. I mean, that's, I've told clients, like, I would rather, we wait to get the right house. I would rather let's find the one that's the right size for you instead of settling for this one, because it'd be great if you wanted to sell it with me in 2 years. That's great for my business, but it's not necessarily great for you.
Yeah.
Like, let's get the right home.
Yeah.
Let's take the time, put in the extra work, whatever we have to do. Try to get creative to find the right property instead of the the one that's going to generate a sale for me now, and then a sale for me in two sales for me in 2 years, whatever it is, right?
Yep.
You know, again, be great for my business.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily what I want to do. I don't think it's in the best interest of the clients.
Yeah, I have huge respect for that. Congratulations again on your position. What is one thing you're super excited about going into taking over as the president of the Seattle-King County Realtors?
I get to work with so many talented people. I get to work with a very talented staff at the association. I get to work with great volunteers. Some of my best friends are from the Realtor Association and the Realtor world. And, you know, we're all at different brokerages.
Yeah.
We all have different business models. We all have different ways of working. And we all get to come together to help run this organization together. It's pretty cool to get to see, you know, on some level we're competitors, but we care about our industry, that we want to put in the effort and the time to help our industry, not just for ourselves, but for our clients and our peers, and homeowners in general. That it's just exciting to get to work with those people. Yeah, we all have like a shared passion for these things, and we get to manifest that together. Yeah. You're going to be a tremendous asset to that organization. Congratulations again. That's going to be fun. Thank you. Want to play a quick game of this or that? Sure. All right. So I'm going to fire off some questions. You get to choose your preference. Okay. And we'll see how it goes, just to help people get to know you a little bit more. Okay. So answering quickly, this or that, big city or small town? Used to be big city, probably going to be small town. Okay. All right. Morning or evening? Evening. Summer or winter? Summer. Chocolate or vanilla? Chocolate. Dogs or cats? Dogs. Movies or TV shows? Movies. Thunderstorm or snowstorm? Thunderstorm. Breakfast or dinner food? Breakfast. Tacos or sushi? Tacos. Pickleball or golf? I'm not really good at either of them, so... You can just choose motorcycles instead. I'd probably just do motorcycles. But I'd probably, if I had to choose, probably golf. You get the golf cart, right? Sure, so that'd be cool. You get to drive something with an engine. Yeah. That's awesome. Garrett Nelson, thanks so much for joining me today. Thanks for at least sharing some of your knowledge, and congratulations again on your position, the election, all of that. Thank you very much. So, I'll go ahead and leave a link to all of Garrett's information in the show notes. If you enjoy this podcast, please consider subscribing so you can stay up to date on all the things we get to chat about. And of course, stay curious.